people coming in, but I think in deference to the timing, we will just get going. One of the lessons you learn as you become involved in Buddhism is that of impermanence, and things are always subject to change, including schedules, of course, that is. So the idea is just roll with the punches, and if you find yourself in a situation where I remember when I first joined the class, 11 o'clock means 11 o'clock. Well, sometimes 11 o'clock doesn't quite mean 11 o'clock. And if you're disturbed by it, ask yourself why you're disturbed by it and how it matters, how it makes a difference. So today it's my privilege to be in front of you as your facilitator. For those of you who haven't participated in the program before, essentially we have the entire program under the guidance of our Venerable Man Yi, who led the class last week. As you've seen, if you've looked at an overview or the schedule, there will be a number of us, the facilitators or volunteers, who will come up and assist you with the teaching of the classes of the next few weeks. I assure you, Venerable Man Yi, as you saw this morning, is constantly with us and with all of you, certainly available by email, questions, and so forth along the way. But primarily, the program for the majority of the session is going to be coordinated by the facilitators in the classroom here. So, along that line, I hope that everybody had a very good week and a very good meditation. We're all ready to sit down and consider some points. Some of you, this might be material going over, but even if you're in that case, it certainly is an opportunity to be able to reflect and contemplate. Every day we change as human beings, and every opportunity we have to reflect upon information, even if you've seen the same person, the same words, or the same sentence before, we're not the same person who heard it or saw what we did the last time. So it is indeed an opportunity to reflect. So just a couple bits of housekeeping before we get going. One of them is we are actually being recorded. We are trying to utilize modern day technology to take the words of the Dharma and the words of this class to a different level, as well as have something in perpetuity of what we're doing here at the temple. So we do by all means have cameras. Please don't let it disturb you. We try and keep them as out of the way as possible. But the reason why I'm using a microphone and we have two other microphones within the room is just to make sure that we do record and capture everything there. It's also something that we as Dharma students, if we miss something, we will have an opportunity either on our website or snippets of it will be available on our Facebook page to be able to go on in and just review it. So by all the means, I would encourage you, as I certainly do when I sit down in classes, to record any points, bring notebooks, have pens, and so forth for anything that you want to record. But along the same ways, if you do want this material, and I'm certainly willing to send handouts of my presentation today to people, that if you do want them, we'll find a way to get that information to you. But these recordings are just another thing that we're trying to make sure that we have that information out there. Yes?
So we asked for the material through Facebook, is that what you're saying?
Well, there's several different ways. I was more talking about the recordings at that point in time. The question was just in reference to Facebook. I will actually cover that off. So my first question is, there were 2 emails sent out this week. One email contained a handout regarding basically what I was going to be covering today, and the second email was from Venerable Man Yi showing a clip of a video, which is an excellent PBS documentary called The Buddha. Could you put your hands up if you got 1 email or 2 emails? Anybody got an email? Put your hand up. Okay, terrific. If you are brand new to the class, and this is the first session that you've been here, you need to make sure that you take down our Venerable's email address, which is at the top of the sheets that everybody got last week, and make sure that she indeed does have your email address. If you've never given it before, fair enough. If you gave it on last week's registration list and you still didn't get it, the instructions last week were to, if you did not get an email by Wednesday, please email Man Yi and she will provide it to you. Now if you did that and she still didn't, then after class I'd just like you to mention it. There might be a challenge with the domain or how we recorded your email address or whatever. But the key would be is that it is the most appropriate means of transposing that information back and forth, or anything to do with class or class changes, anything that we've got. Now the other methodology that we're attempting to use and just brought up is indeed the brand new FGS English Dharma class Facebook page. I've actually just reviewed it for the first time. Martin, thank you very much. You do not have to be active or have a Facebook profile to be on this page. You simply have to go into www.facebook or this precise address and put in FGS English Dharma and it will come up. On that, it was actually posted, the handout for this class. There were also another updates and notes in reference to what we were going to be doing here, or if there's any changes. For instance, we had a refuge ceremony coming up that was going to be led by the abbess that we've had to postpone because of her going to the headquarters temple in Taiwan. So things like that, if you were planning, it's a great way to stay up on current events. So just for your information. The fact that you didn't get the handout for this particular class is okay. I actually had a meeting with Venerable Manier first thing this morning, and she actually changed the direction of a couple things we're doing. So no problem, you're going to get everything fresh right from there. When you do get a chance, that video, The Buddha, is an excellent introduction on the historic and as well as what I would call some of the Dharma or key points about Buddhism in it. I would highly recommend that you do go through that video. It is 56 minutes long, but if you do have an opportunity to go through, it provides an excellent foundation of Buddhism itself and its concepts. So by all means, I would definitely take advantage of that opportunity as far as that goes. Now, there was a request last week to read the first 2 chapters of the core teachings. So first of all, does everybody have their book? You don't have to put up your hand if you don't have it, but I urge you, this literally will be the foundation of the week. The more preparation you do before class, the more you're going to get out of it. Rather than having a concept introduced to you, you will already have some background information. So when I met this morning, Venerable Manier thought it would be a good idea to review some of the points that were in the first chapter, and I'm primarily going to be talking about the second chapter, which is preparing yourself as to how to study Buddhism. So by all means, read that in the book when you get an opportunity to, and at the end of the class, we'll talk about next week's readings and so forth. So that being said, let me start away. Sorry?
I said drum roll.
Drum roll, yes, by all means. See, I didn't have to pass you a microphone for that. Please remember, if you have a comment, and I will be asking for comments, we'll have some questions, and I will be requesting some people to read from the book. Please make sure you've got the microphone before you ask along the way. That would be great. So, points to consider as we go forward. In life, we often react and remark and ask ourselves the question, if only. If only I had this, if only that would happen. If only a condition or a circumstance would happen, then I could be happy. I could be this, I could be that. I put it to you that if we wait for that perfect moment, I'll let you finish that, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So we are now in a position where you have been, and I would offer you congratulations, that you are here, living in this beautiful free country with an opportunity to come to this temple, to open the doors, to come in, to understand or to hear concepts that can lead you to a happier life, reduce the suffering in your life, and ultimately move towards enlightenment. And that truly is very auspicious. As you learn more about the concept of rebirth and the realms in which you can be reborn, the very fact you've been born a human being, and we'll go down from there in this beautiful country, opportunity in this temple, is truly an auspicious thing. And you should consider yourself very lucky that you have this opportunity, which people around the world rarely do, let alone the fact other sentient beings are born into the animal kingdom. So first and foremost, I think it's something that we certainly cannot take for granted along the way. The concept of if only. There are 2 words that if I could remove them from the human world, I would remove those things away, because we are in control of things. We have conditions to learn every day and every minute. Lessons from experiences around us, people around us, from our parents, children, co-workers, people we meet in the street, other touch points, the internet, we've talked about Facebook. If we're open to lessons around us, We need to consider how we look at them, how we interpret them, and how we use them in our path. It can very often be different. And the majority of the way that we learn or look at things is based upon how we have learnt to learn in our lives. And I want to spend the first part of my talk talking about that because I consider it very, very important. I take it Venerable Manyi upstairs had a long discussion with you on a variety of points. Did she? Yes. Okay. I asked several questions in the handout, and if you didn't get it, I'll just post them to you now. We're not necessarily going to answer all these questions, but I do want you to consider them. What was your motivation in signing up for this Dharma class? I'm not asking for anybody to answer right now, but I think it's very, very important if you want to consider that you want to get somewhere, that you know why you want to get there, and you want to know once that there is, what is the there that you're trying to reach. I think that's very, very important. What did you hope to get out of the class? Is an important point to consider as well, too. I think that by knowing those two questions, you really know that direction, and you can much better help yourself keep in the right direction as you're moving forward. I asked, the third question was, thinking of your learning experiences from the past, be it school, work, or other, how did you and how do you now learn? And as I started to consider this, I looked at my own experience as I moved forward and considered the tools that we have at hand. First of all, the DNA that we're all born with puts us in a certain state of being at that point. We are all individuals, and we all have different ways that we develop. Our cellular structure, our minds, everything about us, while there may be similarities, there are individualities there. Second, the environment that we're born into, and that environment is always changing as well too. And then thirdly is the experiences that we have in our life. So whenever we look at anything, these three factors come fully into play. And you'll notice very often that if you look at a particular incident that happens, somebody does something, somebody runs late in a class, you're in a situation in traffic, anything literally that can come around you in life, you come to some snap decisions. And you come to those decisions based upon your thinking and how you have arrived at that point and your process of thinking. As we grow, we move from learning from what's within us and those circumstances to what's around us. I'm always amazed that you see animals in Africa and you see the shows and you see the calves being born in the herds in Africa, and the animal leaps up and is immediately running for the herd. And then you contrast the human child when it's born and the years that it takes to be self-sufficient and the years that it takes to develop your mind to think. What we don't often think about is the potential of the human mind. We hear we only use 10% of our minds. And part of studying the Dharma is to fulfill that potential, to make the mind the weapon that it really needs to be. And I use weapon in a very good way as compared to a poor way. But definitely we have that opportunity and that capability to be proactive and control our situation rather than our situation controlling us. And that is fundamentally different between humans and any other sentient being that is out there. Again, one of the reasons positive that we're good to be born here. I think we all must be very, very aware of the learnings and these perspectives, and we must question them. If we see a certain brand, if we see a certain type of person, if we see a certain circumstance and we immediately react a certain way, I don't like this, I don't like that, we tend to think in negatives too often rather than positives. We need to understand that as we come through. I often think back of when I first came to my first Dharma session, and Venerable Manyi was actually my Venerable at that point in time, and she led the class. And I thought, this is how the class is supposed to be. I came the next week, and it was led by a facilitator. It actually happened to be Jan Taylor, who's here now.